Everything began with something small but laden with meaning. A simple letter arrived at the White House, lost among the countless daily correspondences destined for the President of the United States. But this was no ordinary letter. It did not come from an influential politician, an ambassador, or a high-ranking general. It was from a young Navy captain named Emma Caldwell. At 28, Emma had already achieved a remarkable feat, becoming one of the youngest captains in the history of the U.S. Navy. But her age wasn't the only thing that made her unusual. The fact that she had sent a letter directly to the President requesting a private meeting was something that simply didn't happen. When the correspondence reached President Donald Trump's desk, he picked it up with curiosity. Accustomed to dealing with heads of state, generals, and military strategists, receiving a request from a young captain was, at the very least, intriguing. He opened the letter and read in silence. "Mr. President, I have something important to discuss, not for me but for those who serve in silence." The simplicity and firmness of the message caught his attention. Who was this Captain Caldwell? The President looked up and asked one of his aides, "Find out everything you can about this officer." The request set off a quick flurry of activity behind the scenes. Shortly thereafter, one of the aides returned with a dossier in hand. "Mr. President, Emma Caldwell, 28 years old. Graduated as the top of her class at the Naval Academy. Took command of her vessel at 26, one of the youngest captains in modern history. She has an impressive record, decorations for leadership and successful operations, but also a certain controversy in her past." Trump raised an eyebrow. "What kind of controversy?" The aide flipped through a few pages before responding. 3 years ago, she made a decision during a mission that resulted in casualties. Some consider her responsible for a lapse in judgment. Others say she did what was necessary. The President nodded slowly. He had already heard many stories of commanders making tough decisions under pressure, but what made this captain believe she had something so urgent to say directly to the President? "Schedule the meeting. I want to hear what she has to say." The response was immediate. Preparations were made, and within a few hours, Emma was notified that her request had been accepted. The news leaked quickly, and before long, social media and news outlets were abuzz with speculations. Who was this young captain? What could she possibly have to say to the President of the United States? Emma, however, didn't care about the gossip. Since the moment she joined the Navy, she had faced skeptics. At 18, they said she was too young to pursue this career. At 22, when she became an officer, they questioned whether she had the strength to command. At 26, when she took command of her own ship, murmurs said she still wasn't ready. But every time she proved them wrong. Now, however, the pressure was different. It wasn't about training, a mission, or a promotion. It was about a truth that needed to be spoken. On the appointed day, the military jet carrying Emma landed at Joint Base Andrews under a grey sky. She stepped off the aircraft with determined strides, ignoring the glances of the few reporters who had managed to learn of her arrival. Cameras were set up, and journalists shouted questions that she ignored. Her focus was on the mission ahead. As she approached the White House, she took a deep breath. She knew that from that moment on, everything she said could have far-reaching consequences. When she entered the Oval Office, she found Trump waiting for her, watching her with a mixture of curiosity and respect. "Captain Caldwell, have a seat," he said, gesturing to a chair in front of him. Emma held her posture upright and spoke firmly. "Thank you for having me, Mr. President." Trump picked up the letter from the table and held it lightly. "You wrote that this isn't about you, but about those who serve in silence. What does that mean?" Emma took a deep breath. This was the moment she had been waiting for. "It means that behind every medal, behind every mission, there is a cost that few see. And that sometimes, leadership isn't about victories, but about surviving failures." Trump narrowed his eyes, intrigued. "Go on." Emma straightened her shoulders. "This country celebrates its heroes who win, but forgets those who fight silent battles every day. We speak of glory and honor, but no one mentions the weight of difficult decisions. 3 years ago, I made a decision that cost the life of one of my best friends. He trusted me, and I failed him." The room fell silent. Trump studied her for a moment before speaking. "Do you still carry that with you?" Emma nodded. Every day, because leadership isn't just about making the right choices. It's about carrying the weight of the wrong ones as well. Trump leaned back in his chair, fingers interlaced before his face. I understand. Emma looked up at him, skeptical. With all due respect, sir, how could you? Trump tilted his head slightly. Because being president means making decisions that affect millions of lives. You do the best you can, but there's always a price. People love you. People hate you. You never know if you made the right decision until it's too late, but you carry the weight anyway. Emma fell silent for a moment. Perhaps he understood more than she imagined. Then why keep doing it? She asked. Trump gave a slight smile. For the same reason you keep serving, because someone has to carry that weight. Emma exhaled slowly. Suddenly the meeting didn't feel like just a protocol. It felt like a real conversation between two people who understood the burden of leadership. I didn't come here for myself, she said. I came for those who have no voice. Trump nodded. Then let's make sure they are heard. Emma frowned. What do you mean? Trump leaned forward. You came here to speak. Now I want you to say this to the nation. Out there the media speculated about the meeting, but Emma never imagined that her voice could reach such a large audience. She hesitated. Are you sure about this? Trump smiled. You wanted to speak for those who serve in silence. Here's your chance. That night, as she stared at her reflection in the hotel room mirror, Emma thought about Jake Carter's last words before his final mission. If something goes wrong, don't carry me as a ghost. But it was exactly what she had been doing. Her phone buzzed with a message from the White House team. The president is ready. Are you? Emma took a deep breath and typed her response. Yes. The next morning, Emma woke before dawn. Her hotel room was silent, but her mind was not. She lay there for a few minutes, staring at the ceiling, feeling the weight of what she was about to do. This wasn't an ordinary mission. It didn't involve maps, military strategies, or direct orders. But in a way it was more difficult than any battle she had ever faced. She got up and donned her uniform with the precision of a soldier who had done this 1,000 times before. She adjusted the collar and ran her hand over the insignias on her chest. Her reflection in the mirror looked back at her with determination. She wasn't just a Navy officer today. She was a voice. Her phone buzzed on the bedside table. A message from her mother. We are proud of you, no matter what happens today. You have already made a difference. Emma exhaled slowly, absorbing those words. Her parents had never fully understood her career choice, but they always supported her. Now, more than ever, she needed that support. The car ride to the White House was silent. Outside, reporters gathered, cameras and microphones in hand, waiting for any sign of what was happening. When Emma got out of the vehicle, flashes went off like a storm. Questions were hurled at her from all sides. Captain Caldwell, why did the president give you this platform? Are you criticizing military leadership? Do you think soldiers are being ignored? Emma ignored them all. She wasn't there to feed sensational headlines. She took a deep breath and made her way inside the White House. Trump was waiting for her at the entrance to the press room. He crossed his arms and observed her for a moment before speaking. Nervous? Emma lifted her chin. No more than on any other mission, sir. Trump smiled. That means it matters. She nodded. What exactly do you expect me to say? Trump tilted his head slightly. I want you to say what you told me yesterday. I want America to hear what it truly means to serve. Emma pressed her lips together. Many people will criticize me. Some will say I don't have enough experience to speak for everyone. Trump shrugged. People will always talk. The only thing that matters is, are you going to let them decide who you are, or are you going to tell them who you are? That was the answer she needed. She straightened her shoulders. Let's do it. The White House press room was packed. Journalists adjusted in their seats, setting up recorders and cameras. The murmuring grew as everyone tried to guess what was about to happen. Then Emma entered. She walked to the podium with firm steps. Silence fell over the room as she adjusted the microphone and took a deep breath. The United States celebrates its heroes, she began, her voice firm. We honor those who win, who return home with medals, but we don't speak enough about those who don't come back, or about those who do return but leave pieces of themselves behind. The room fell into a solemn silence. I wear this uniform with pride, she continued, but leadership isn't just about glory, it's about responsibility. She paused, her gaze sweeping the room, ensuring that everyone present understood the gravity of her words. 3 years ago, I made a decision that cost the life of a friend. Since then, I have carried that weight with me every day. Because leadership isn't just about making the right choices, it's about carrying the wrong ones as well. Journalists exchanged glances. Some scribbled furiously. Others just listened, absorbing every word. The men and women in this country serve in silence, facing battles that few see. But no one speaks about what happens when the war ends, when the applause ceases, and when they have to deal with the scars they carry. That needs to change. Outside, millions watched the speech live, some at home, others on military bases. Across the nation, soldiers who had already felt the weight of silence heard every word as if it were addressed to them. When Emma finished, the room remained silent for a few seconds. Then the questions began. Captain Caldwell, do you believe that military leadership has failed to take care of its soldiers? What do you say to critics who claim you're being used as a political tool? Are you suggesting that the armed forces don't sufficiently support their members? Emma raised her hand, asking for silence. This isn't about politics, she said, her voice firm. It never was. This is about responsibility, about real leadership, the kind that doesn't hide from hard truths. She looked at Trump, who was watching intently. You wanted to know who I speak for, she said. I speak for those who serve in silence. And now, the question that matters is, will you listen to them? She stepped away from the podium. Camera flashes exploded. The country was in shock. In the days that followed, her speech dominated the news. Some hailed her as a heroine. Others criticized her, saying that a soldier should not question the military structure publicly. But Emma didn't care about fame or debates. Her goal was to ensure that no soldier ever felt alone in their struggle. Trump called her a few days later. Captain, it seems you got people talking. Emma sighed. I didn't intend to cause controversy, sir. Trump laughed. Truth always causes controversy, but controversy is not the enemy. Silence is. Those words stayed with her. Days later, a new letter arrived at her address. It was from a 98-year-old veteran named Charles Reynolds. He wrote, For decades I carried the weight of what I saw and what I did, but for the first time I felt that someone truly spoke for us. Thank you. Emma reread the letter several times before carefully closing it. Jake had once told her to speak for those who could not. Now, it seemed she was finally doing just that. She knew her work wouldn't end there. She began meeting with veteran groups, listened to their stories, and sought support for mental health programs. When Trump secured funding to expand these programs, she felt that the mission she had started at that podium was finally taking shape. Not everyone agreed with her approach. A retired general went on television to criticize her speech. Leadership isn't about words. We need action. Emma heard that and smiled slightly. They think I spoke to replace action, she commented to Trump on a call. But I spoke to inspire it. Trump laughed on the other end of the line. Let them talk. History remembers those who act, and Emma wasn't going to stop now. Before leaving Washington, Emma made one last stop at Arlington National Cemetery. She walked slowly among the rows of headstones until she found Jake Carter's. She knelt, placing her hand on the cold stone. I spoke for you, she whispered. And they listened. The wind blew softly, carrying with it a different kind of silence. Not the silence of burden, but that of a mission accomplished. She stood up, adjusted her uniform, and saluted her friend one last time. Then she turned and walked toward the future, knowing that her struggle was only just beginning. If you liked the video, leave your like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. Share your opinion in the comments. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next video.